So, okay, we already have a few attendees. Let's see. Hello, everybody who's already logging in. We'll just wait a few minutes until we have more attendees, and then we will start with the webinar. Okay, looks good already. Okay. We actually do have a lot of attendees already. I would say we wait one more minute and then we can start.
You are the boss. You decide.
Okay. Yeah. I would say we start now. Okay. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today about the E2 investment visa renewal. We invited Mr. Scanu from Visa Business Plans, who will give us great insights into what to take into account when you have to renew your E2 investment visa. Thank you so much, Mr. Scanu, for making the time today. The GAVC is a non-profit organization whose main goal is to connect German and international businesses, mainly here in South Florida. If you would like to find out more about us, please don't hesitate to reach out to us or just read more about us on our website. I will just quickly share our information in the chat. And here we go. Okay, so I just shared our information in the chat. Sorry. Okay, sorry. We are happy to provide you with regular webinars as well as social online events in order to keep the networking alive. We are currently offering these webinars for free. However, we appreciate any contribution in order to at least cover our webinar costs. I will also share the information about our GoFundMe link in the chat. But now I actually would like to go on and speak about Mr. Scanu in today's webinar. Mr. Scanu received a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from the University of Florida and an MBA in Management from Bocconi University in Milan in Italy. Mr. Scanu was also visiting scholar at Michigan State University under the prestigious H. Humphrey Fellowship with a focus on entrepreneurship, venture capital, and high growth enterprises. Mr. Scanu is a certified coach from the University of Miami. In 2009, Mr. Scanu founded Visa Business Plans. Since then, his company has written more than 6,000 customized and effective business plans used for raising capital and for immigration purposes. Drawing from his own experience as an immigrant and recipient of an O1 visa in entrepreneurship and management of entrepreneurial ventures, Mr. Scanu has established himself as a successful consultant and business plan writer with international experience assisting clients across Asia, Europe, Africa, Latin America, and the United States. Thank you, Mr. Scanu, for being here today. Many of our members are in the situation of actually renewing their investment visa this year or next year, and we are very interested in hearing more about it. After his presentation, we will have time for a Q&A. Please make sure if you send us any questions to use the Q&A button and not the chat, so that we can keep the chat really just for the exchange of important links. So, Mr. Scanu, thank you very much, and the mic is yours.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share with the audience today what I have learned, what my company has learned about immigration. I wanted to briefly add something. I have been an entrepreneur and business owner for 35 years. And it was only 12 years ago that I entered into the world of immigration. And through practice and having worked and learned from many immigration attorneys, I feel that I have done a PhD in immigration in the United States. Having said this, let me briefly share more about our company. As Leonie indicated, since 2009, my company has done more than 6,000 immigration projects. I have a team of about 20 people. We can serve your clients in 8 different languages, including German, by the way. And our main office is located in Coral Gables in 4,000 Palms. I will, first of all, share an important disclaimer. We're not immigration lawyers. This is very, very important. We team up with immigration attorneys. We work with them. We look at cases from a business perspective. And what we bring to the table is our practical experience and understanding of business. But we're not attorneys. So whatever we do in cases related to business immigration is always in conjunction with and under the guidance of an immigration attorney. Now, I want to share briefly, before I talk about the 3 top challenges when it comes to renewing an E2 visa, a little bit more about our services. We offer pre-immigration services. I'm going to share with you a couple of examples. We come across quite often, actually, with foreign investors that say, look, I have $100,000. I contacted and retained an immigration attorney, and I need to find a business. And we have developed our own process to help our clients identify whether launching a startup, buying a franchise, or buying an existing business is the best option for their E2 visas. And the analysis that we provide includes a financial profile, professional background, the lifestyle that the investor wants to have in the US. This is very important. And of course, the visa category. And then whenever a client comes with a specific idea, such as, hey, I own a restaurant in Berlin, but I'm not sure if it would make sense to open the restaurant here. Can you help me figure out what the costs are, expected profits, the licenses, and so on? We provide that service too. Then, of course, during the immigration process, again, we team up and work with immigration attorneys and provide, of course, immigration business plans, but also business plan assessment, meaning a client has written their own business plans. We evaluate them and identify the gaps between what has been prepared and the expectations of a consular officer or immigration officer. And then we provide other services in connection with other visas, NIWs, and so on. And after immigration, we also offer services when we deliver a business plan, our work is not done. We are always working to update business plans, which is going to be the topic today. And what we do is keep track of requests for evidence and other trends that enable us to go back always and update our business plans and make them stronger. And whenever there's an RFE, a request for evidence in connection with a petition, again, we work with immigration attorneys and we provide, RFE assessments, innovative solutions, and responses to RFEs. Now, today's topic, I want to talk about the top 3 challenges that E2 investors face when they're going to renew their visas. And again, this is from a business plan perspective. I want to underline again that we're not immigration attorneys and that we work with immigration attorneys to handle the cases or the responses through the business plan update. So scenario number 1, let's say that last year, your business's revenues went down or even the profits dropped. Could that be a problem? Well, when revenues drop, that is not necessarily a problem, regardless of or just COVID was just a challenge for many businesses. But before COVID, uh, for many reasons, any business can see its revenues drop. So it is not necessarily a problem. Uh, this is something, again, to be consulted with the attorney. Where we see a potential challenge is when revenues drop, but they drop so much that the company is losing money. The potential problem here is, and again, this is a consultation with an immigration attorney, is a concept called marginality. So I'm going to share a couple of examples of how a couple of past clients who have the revenues go down and the profits drop, how we came in, updated the business plan, and along with the immigration attorney, were able to secure a visa renewal. So case number one was a kosher restaurant. They had been in business for 3 years. And, last year, they're the beginning of the year and throughout July, revenues dropped and the company started to lose money. What they did was they decided to use that stock capacity of the kitchen to expand into other food service areas, mainly what many restaurants did, which was deliveries and takeout. But they even expanded in a way that they were able to prepare meals for some hospitals and some nonprofits. So through the business plan, what we did, again, in coordination with the immigration attorney, was explain what had happened in terms of, hey, COVID hit, the whole economy is suffering. We always include in the business plan statistics to support the claim that, hey, this is not my business, it's the economy that really suffered. And this is the new direction that we're taking the business. So we focused on explaining what the new strategy was and how the company was going to start hiring staff again. And more importantly, again, the profits. So we showed a specific and very detailed plan to improve operations and to improve profitability. And voila, the business plan was submitted along with the attorney's excellent work, and the renewal was approved. Case number two, a food importer. Again, the restaurant and food service industry was really hurt last year. So we can only imagine how a food importer would be impacted in a negative way by this scenario. Similar to case number one, profits disappeared and losses started to mount. What our client did was they changed strategy and they used their installed capacity and logistics and infrastructure to shift towards a related type of business. And they expanded into the logistics of other products to healthcare facilities, basically. So using that, their logistics capabilities again, what we did was we updated the business plan, explaining again what the company had been doing before COVID, the revenues, the profits, and the job creation. Then we clearly explained with the statistics also what had happened to the economy and the sector. And we explained in detail what the new strategy was, the steps and actions that the company and investor had taken to take the business in a new direction. And again, along with the excellent work of the immigration attorney handling the case, the E2 visa renewal was granted. So that's scenario number one. I want to talk about the second challenge, which is and job creation. As I said at the beginning and have been underlined throughout my presentation, we're not immigration attorneys, but the way that I like to explain the E2 visa, or the core concept of the E2 visa to our clients, is basically, look, the E2 visa is bring me your money and create jobs, or create some type of benefit for the US economy. And job creation is kind of the number one way to show the benefit for the US economy. There are other ways to do that, but that's kind of, again, at the top of the list. So question number one that we get from many clients, and when we have conversations with attorneys, immigration attorneys, when handling renewals, is, hey, let's talk about employment. Look, our client had projected that they would be hiring, I don't know, 4 people by the end of 2020, I'm sorry, and they were actually on track to doing that, but COVID happened. So they're now hiring only 1 staff member. Could that be a problem? Maybe it could be a problem. That is an excellent question for an immigration attorney who will look holistically at the case and will determine how bad that situation could be. A scenario that is more concerning is when there are no employees. So employment stopped. Not only stopped, it disappeared. So I'm going to share today a couple of examples. One of them was a German client who owns a landscaping business in Indiana. And this case was pre-COVID, because it is important that I highlight the fact that it's not only COVID that can affect your business. Hurricanes have affected many of our clients' businesses in the past. The case that I'm going to share now in Indiana and related to COVID, to hurricanes, a different scenario, it can happen. Going back to 2009, when I founded the company, in 2010, we handled many E2 renewals for businesses that had been hit by the 2008-2009 recession. So there was no COVID, but the economy had suffered. So there are many reasons why business, could be affected by either national, regional, or local realities that negatively affect the business. So going back to the example of the German investor who owned a landscaping business in Indiana, it was really an interesting one, because the problem that our client had is that he could not find people to hire. That was a problem. Problem was that in the area where he was living, unemployment was 1.5%. So we worked with the client, and again, the immigration attorney, to prove that they had taken all the necessary steps to try to hire people. He had posted job postings in many different platforms and sites. He was able to prove that no matter what he did, he could not find people to work. And his business operated for about 6 to 9 months without employees. So we explain all of that in the business plan. And again, it is the immigration attorney who determines the strategy, and then we come in with the business plan to provide details and data and facts to support any claim. So we built a new business plan explaining what the new strategy was going to be, which included, by the way, the client diversifying into related services, but that would not rely on finding staff members for the landscaping business. So he actually expanded the business and was able to hire people. And again, the case was submitted, the E2 renewal petition, and the case was approved. This was a really interesting one, because one of the key, again, elements of the E2 is job creation, and we were able to prove why there was no job creation. The second example is a hair salon client that back in 2018, at the beginning, they were in the process of renewing their E2 visa. What was the problem? Hurricane. Their business was practically wiped down because of a hurricane. So they had to close doors for about a month and a half. They had to rebuild the system. And again, the immigration attorney handling the case, decided that if she included an updated business plan in the petition explaining, again, with facts and statistics, what had happened, then it would be much easier, or we would be increasing the chances of a renewal approval with a detailed plan that also talked about how the investor was going to be taking additional steps to hire people and get to profitability fast. The investor actually diversified into a similar business, and the petition was filed and the E2 renewal was approved. I am sure that by now there is a recurring theme here. Many of our clients, when we do their E2 renewal business plan, have decided for one reason or another to expand into a new business category, to diversify into other areas. This is something that, again, through a consultation with your immigration attorney, you can determine the size and the scope of the new activity. But what I can tell you is that under the right circumstances and with the blessing and approval of your immigration attorney, it can be done. I want to talk now about the third challenge, which is the scariest one: business shutdown. What happened if you were forced to shut your business? As I have been saying throughout this presentation today, number one and most important, strategize with your immigration attorney, because an investor might be facing what is called in the E2 law a substantial change. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not qualified to do so. But that's an important area to discuss with your attorney. So to go deeper into a couple of examples of practical cases where we have been involved in the past, successful E2 renewals. We had a client that owned a hotel for 4 years, and the hotel closed down. He invested new funds into a restaurant business. So what we did in the business plan, again, in conjunction with an immigration attorney, is, hey, this looks like the best strategy. Let's explain what happened to the hotel, why it closed. And now let's explain that, hey, there's a new investment in a new venture. Let's highlight when the hotel was open, what type of revenues it had, profits, job creation. Let's show that, again, when the hotel was operating, it was a strong business and a strong E2 case. So we did that in the business plan, explain the history of the hotel, the key numbers, again, in job creation, revenues, profits, and the new path for the E2 entity through a new investment in a restaurant and the detailed plan for the restaurant. Again, the attorney did a fantastic job. The E2 was filed and it was approved for a totally different business. We had a similar situation with a client also from Germany, by the way. He was in the business of distributing products manufactured in Germany. our client would sign distribution agreements with startups or small companies in Germany, and he would attend trade shows, find distribution partners, or oversee the distribution, and so on. The particular business area or industry where a client was active was impacted not by COVID, but by a different situation back in 2019. And he had to quickly decide what to do with the business because he was seeing that he was going to have to shut down the business in maybe 2 to 3 weeks. So we, again, in conjunction with and coordination with an immigration attorney, we strategized a business plan where, again, similar to the hotel case, we explained what happened to the product distribution business, the numbers that the product distribution business had reached when it was opened or during the years that it was open. And again, in terms of job creation, of course, initial investment, profits and revenues, and any other impact on the US economy, and shift our focus on this is a new path for growth. Our client is going to use the relationships that he has with German companies and US distributors, and instead of distributing products, he's going to be providing marketing services for his clients. So that's what he ended up doing. And again, the E2 was filed and it was approved. Again, a recurring theme here is when things get tough, many of our clients either expand into a new category or diversify, meaning they keep the initial business and then add a second line of business, or they just present a revised plan, maybe more conservative with less revenue growth, less job creation because of the uncertainty in the US economy and the uncertainty because of COVID. So this is the third category, the business shutdown and the risk that they bring to a need to renewal. So these are the three scenarios. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, this was very interesting, and it has been a very challenging year. And yes, many businesses really just have to see what else can they offer, how can they expand. Let's see if we received some questions already. There's one question I have here. It was asked anonymously. When do you recommend, should I, the person, start preparing for my visa renovation?
Good question. And again, I'm not an immigration attorney. So the first thing that I tell all my clients, you must coordinate with your attorney. The sooner, the better. Let me explain why. I've seen many cases where the client comes to us, hey, I met with my attorney, I need to file my renewal and within the next 30 days, but I have a problem. I have no employees, my company is losing money. So just like with a very important decision in our lives, we need to plan ahead. My recommendation to my clients always is, look, ask your attorney when is the best time to start looking at, the paperwork, the documents that they need to see, so that the attorney can determine if there is something that could be a risk for the renewal, and that risk can be addressed, can be mitigated. Let me give you an example. Sometimes we see with renewals that client comes and say, hey, look, I don't have any employees. What do you mean you don't have any employees? Well, ABC happened. Okay. Now, if you're coordinating with the attorney, let's say 6 months in advance, even 3 months, I wouldn't, I wouldn't do this less than 3 months. I mean, I wouldn't wait until 1 month or 2 months. I would do it 3 months before the renewal or even more. Why? Because worst case scenario, with the attorney, we can all determine a strategy to identify risks and minimize those risks. No employees, go and hire an employee. Or I have a 1099. Some attorneys, depending on the case, will say, no, I don't like 1099s, go hire a W-2. And some other issues that an attorney might identify. Let me give an example: an expired lease agreement. Okay, a company that is losing money, and sometimes we identify that a company is losing money because of the way that the CPA is doing the numbers. There's nothing wrong with the way that the CPA is doing the numbers, only that immigration and consular officers have a different framework to review numbers. So sometimes we actually have to explain. Let me give you an example: a business that is losing money because there is a lot of depreciation in the profit and loss. The depreciation is a non-cash expense, so we have to explain, hey, even though this business is on paper losing money, look at all the cash that we have. So this is my long answer to the question, because I want to share always examples and educate our clients on why it is important to consult with the attorney way in advance, because you don't know what your attorney will find. You don't know how the law might have changed, or even, which is what we saw during the last 4 years, how the way that the law is being interpreted has changed. Because many clients say, oh, look, but I got my visa 4 years ago with this scenario. Well, things are now different, my friend. They're looking at these cases with a different perspective. So the more you can go back and I'll go back, at least between 3 and 6 months. That's my recommendation, because we're here to identify risks. And if we find an issue, we're gonna have time. We want to have time to resolve those issues.
Thank you very much. Why would you say is it important to update a business plan?
A business plan update, first and foremost, is a decision that, or a recommendation that an immigration attorney makes. Okay, so it is not, I want to clarify this, it is not a requirement for E2 renewals. What I know, again, I'm not an attorney, what I know after speaking with hundreds of attorneys for 12 years is when they submit an E2 renewal, they have to provide documents to show their company is active and operating and creating jobs and making money, and simplifying things here. But they're the ones who determine if and how business plan update should be included in the petition. And I would say that the best examples in the 3 scenarios were that I shared today, when things didn't go the right way, when there is a big gap between the projections that were presented in the initial business plan and what the company is actually doing, when the company is expanding into new areas, and that type of thing. But it's the immigration attorney's decision whether to include an updated business plan or not.
Thank you. What happens, or can you change? Can a business change for less employees in the new business plan? So for example, if the business had 10 employees before and now they're changing to less, to, for example, 2 employees, is this still, can you still do that and renew your investment visa?
Very good question. And even though I'm not an attorney, I will give an attorney answer. It depends. So again, the way that an attorney and subsequently an immigration officer, if it's done in the US, or consular officer, if it's on overseas, or a CBP officer in the border with Canada, is they look at all the facts and elements. So why it depends? Well, if let's say that the investor closed the business and invested in a new business, In that context, it may work. Second, when we see a drop off from 10 to 2, again, since our mindset is about identifying risk, then that for us is a red flag. Why did this happen? And that always prompts us to call the immigration attorney and say, hey, by the way, your client had 10 employees or was planning to hire a staff of 10. Now they're talking about 2. This is the context of the business. So what are your thoughts? So depending on, again, the context and the reality of the business and the economy, it may work. What we have seen, especially last year, was, hey, no matter how optimistic I want to be, there's a lot of uncertainty. Certain business sectors were really hit by COVID. So I want to present more realistic staff projections, because the flip side is, someone could be tempted to present on paper this really optimistic plan, but we've seen that officers, especially knowing the COVID reality, how it impacted the economy and certain sectors, they come back saying, but look, how come you have such optimistic projections when, look, the economy is doing really bad? So we run, an investor runs a risk of facing an officer who is not going to believe those projections. Okay, we've seen that when clients come back to us saying, hey, I went for the interview, wasn't approved, or look, we received an RFE, and that's when they contact us, and again, we work with the attorney to handle that. So long answer to the short one, it depends. We need to analyze the whole thing to determine how the case looks.
Thank you. Another question, someone applied and prepared all documents and received the E2 visa back then without an attorney support. So that person did it on their own. Would you recommend an attorney for the renewal? Or do you think for the renewal, if that person managed to do it already before without an attorney, they might be able to do it again?
Okay. I love this question. I get this question all the time, and I love to use the following example. Let's say that I have a huge toothache. Could I extract my own tooth? Yes, of course. Yeah, I don't need to go to a dentist. Is that smart decision? Not really. So it's similar to this question. In what regard? This is what happens. I find it's really interesting. We all attend Google University. We Google things, right? We ask our friends, they did their own thing. Oh, this is very easy. So a couple of comments that I hear, oh, I'm gonna be paying an attorney just to fill out the form. Well, this is what happens. You can read a lot of stuff online, okay? And consult and reach your own conclusions. Why do I recommend an attorney? Because an attorney knows, especially an attorney with, if you're doing an E2, an attorney with a lot of experience with E2s, they know how certain consulates or even the USCIS is reviewing cases. Let me give you the perfect example. When I get referred an E2 client, the first question that I ask is, where are you planning to file E2? Why is that so important? London, England has one of the highest standards. They have a really high bar for E2s. They do not tend to like investments below 200,000. That's London. If we do Madrid, we do a lot of cases in Frankfurt. We know how Frankfurt likes things, but it's different from, for example, Sydney, Australia. I was with an attorney speaking yesterday. Sydney tends to be very friendly, which is not the case with other US consulates. USCIS, interesting fact, the USCIS is the immigration service within the United States. About 90% of E2 cases are filed outside of the US, of the United States. So in my experience, and also based on multiple conversations with hundreds of immigration attorneys, USCIS officers do not usually have a lot of experience with E2s. And we see it when, again, we're retained, receive, client that did the E2 themselves, they receive an RFE. Just by reading the language of the request for evidence, you realize that, look, this officer is not really familiar with E2s. In fact, we work with immigration attorneys that will not do an E2 in the United States. So that's why it is important to hire an immigration attorney, because there are many subtleties out there, many details that you will never learn about in Google University.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very
Sure.
interesting again. Especially since when you already made it the first time, one would think, oh, the second time should be even easier. But yeah, thank you very
No.
much. I have another question. I'm not sure if it's definitely not necessarily, it's more general question about the consulate, but maybe you have any sort of updated information about this due to a client or a similar situation. But a person is asking, that person was waiting to be interviewed for the E2 visa when COVID arrived and they closed the consulate. Does the person have to request another appointment and pay the fee again? The person has not received yet a solid answer for this question from the consulate. So, Mr. Scanu, I know this is not your field, you're not working for the consulate either, but maybe you do have some similar, maybe you had spoken about this, a similar scenario with one of your clients, so I would still ask this question.
Yes, perfect. So I hope that by now I have made it clear that I'm not an immigration attorney. So this is what I've heard from clients and from immigration attorneys. Yes, people can request an appointment, and I've heard that they, at least the cases that I'm familiar with, the investor does not have to pay the fee again. Okay, that's what I've heard. But last week, just to give you an interesting update, last week, my company sponsored the annual South Florida Immigration Conference. So I attended the conference, and here's what I learned. It's kind of a confirmation of what I've been reading about in different immigration platforms. Different consulates are opening at different speeds. If you apply for an E2 visa now in Sydney, Australia, you get an appointment for tomorrow. Taiwan, 45 days. Okay. The Panama, this is what I heard last week. It may have changed because things change so fast. Panama was accepting even third country nationals. Okay, meaning if I'm a German, I need to go to a consulate. Some attorneys are sending their clients to Panama. That was last week. I don't know if it's valid because things change. It's important to understand that when consulates open, when they give you a new appointment, that is a decision made by each and every single U.S. consulate. It's not like Washington is going to tell all the U.S. consulate you have to open tomorrow. No, that is a local decision. So again, consult with your attorney.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question. So for the renewal, if the initial investment visa was processed in Frankfurt, would then I still be able to go to Panama, for example, or does it always have to be in the same consulate where you're registered, or once the registration is through, then the registration can be opened or retrieved from any consulate? Would you know?
That is no, I don't know. That is an excellent question. I used to know before COVID, because what happened is because of COVID, many US consulates changed, started to be more flexible. Let me give you an example. In Mexico, you could only do your E2 in Ciudad Juarez. So even though there are several US consulates in Mexico, they centralized the e-visas in Ciudad Juarez. What happened is with COVID, they started opening up. You can now do your E2 in Mexico City. So my point is, depends. It's a country by country thing. So I know that the U.S. government understands that if Frankfurt is closed and you do need to get your visa, you may be able to go to another consulate. Now, there was an update yesterday. Again, I'm not an immigration attorney, but I'm reading about this stuff every single day because I have to. So there is what is called the national interest exception. There is a set of reasons why you could have, submit a petition to get the interview, and you might actually be able to get an interview, but you have to prove that you fall within those categories. I'm not going to go into the details of what those categories are, but again, go to your immigration attorney and say, hey, I heard about the national interest exception. Can you tell me more about it? Do I qualify for that? That's my business. Qualify for that, and you may be able to get an appointment.
Thank you. Thank you. Since you recommended, well, since it's apparently crucial to definitely work together with an attorney, do you have a certain list of attorneys that you recommend? Well, first of all, we from the Business Chamber, we definitely have a list of attorneys, especially immigration attorneys that we recommend. So I can also provide the information, but one is Stefan Schenk from Manos Schenk. He's an immigration attorney, as well as Ellen von Geisel with Ellen von Geisel PA. Both of them are specialized in immigration attorneys, and I can definitely also share the information. But since apart from Mr. Scanu's recommendations, since we are a business chamber, we are definitely the go-to platform in order to find out that information. But yes, Mr. Scanu, do you also have a recommendation of attorneys or?
Yes, well, yes, great question, because I get asked that same question every single day. My answer, look, is attorneys are like wine. What is the best wine? The one that you like. That's the best wine. So having said this, we work with more than 600 immigration attorneys nationwide. So my recommendation is, since this is a German-American Chamber of Commerce event, go with your attorneys. They're excellent attorneys. I'll be glad always to, same way I've spent my day today, whenever. I love to help people, basically. This is why I do what I do with my team. So I'm always glad to schedule calls and answer questions with the disclaimer all the time, and eventually connect prospects or clients with immigration attorneys with certain characteristics. So some clients say, no, I want the German speaking attorney. Others say, no, I don't want a German attorney. I don't know. I want an attorney who works for a bigger law firm, smaller law firm. I want an attorney that will pick up my phone whenever I call him within 2 seconds. And, that can be unrealistic, but I'll be glad to connect clients and prospects with immigration attorneys, but go with Leonie's recommendations first, please.
Thank you very much. I have more questions, but they are also more travel ban related and immigration related, so I will not read them out. It's just too detailed. Is there any more question? It's 10 minutes to 11 now. Is there any more question that is really for the renewal itself or the visa itself related and not travel related? Otherwise, I would just say there's nothing coming in. I would say thank you very, very much, Mrs. Scanu, for your time. We see your information here at www.visabusinessplans.com for more information. He or that company, you also have a very, very helpful Instagram with many, many interesting posts. You have blogs on your website. So anyone that needs more information, please feel free to research a little bit more. Oh, and how does someone learn more about your service fees? I'm sure they're also on your website, but if you quickly want to,
No, they're not. And
oh,
you know,
because
I like to
they're
have,
always adjusted to each case, correct?
yes, adjusted to cases, realities. To give an example, we do a lot of cases for E2s in real estate with complex structures with a holding company and four underlying companies. Those tend to be more complex and they cost more. That's one element. Second, where the E2 is going to be filed. Some business plans are shorter. The ones for Germany tend to be short and sweet. Okay. Others may tend to be long. For the USCIS, you want to explain many things in detail. But third, it depends on how soon clients need the business plan. Sometimes clients say, hey, I need the business plan by the end of yesterday. So those cost more. Okay. So I'll be glad to always consult and understand the case. And based on the specific case, I will always provide a flat fee for the service.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think that's it. So yes, again, thank you very much for the time you've made, for sharing these interesting examples, giving us more information. And yes, please, everybody, feel free to reach out to me, to the business chamber. You can just call us anytime or write an email to miami@gabc.us, and the same for Mr. Marco Scanu. Check out the website, their Instagram, just send them a message. They are great in communication. I can definitely confirm that. And yeah, everybody have a great day. And thank you again, Mr. Scanu, for making the time today.
Well, thank you. I have two final words for you and the attendees. Dankeschön and auf Wiedersehen.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye-bye.